All right. John, first of all, let me just say thank you for sitting down and talking to us. Um, People know Papa John's is an international company, but here we are sitting in an auditorium at Jeffersonville High School. A couple of months ago, you were at Simmons, and you've been a few other places. Is that because you're really just a local guy at heart?
I think the community is paramount. Community, family, all go hand in hand. This is Jeff High. This is where I started my business in Jeffersonville. This is where I went to high school. It's where I played baseball. We're here today to dedicate this field, Don Pool Field, and kind of upgrade it, and that's a lot of fun. And then the Simmons College, Kevin Cosby and I both had the same mentor, David and Betsy Jones, God rest her soul. And so Simmons was easy to get involved with HBCUs, and we've had a lot of fun with Simmons and Kevin. Really admire what they're doing. And then, of course, Jeffersonville, we built a weight room a few years back, and now we build a ball field. So it's home, it's community, it's where I started.
Is giving back important to you?
Yeah, my dad used to every spring give baseballs and ball bats and ball gloves to less fortunate, some of the folks that just weren't quite doing as well as some of the other folks. And so the folks that were disadvantageous in a position, he always took care of them. So from my grandfather to my dad, we always were taught it's obligatory to give back. And if you have a little success, share it with the community.
You mentioned your dad. Did your dad own Mixed Lounge?
He did.
Whatever happened to Mixed Lounge?
Mixed Lounge is still thriving. We can go down the road right now and have a McBurger if you want, cold beverage. But Mixed Lounge is still there, still doing well. And Daddy owned that in '83, headed for bankruptcy, and then I got involved, and he and I made a pretty good team, and we got it turned around. It's been a good ride.
And who owns it now? Mixed Lounge.
Who owns what?
Who owns Mixed Lounge?
Ted and Scotty Johnson. Ted and Scotty still own it. They bought it from Tim O'Hearn, and Tim O'Hearn bought it from me.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about some of the controversy that happened a while back. Since then, you stepped away from the company. I know in the beginning it was part of a succession plan. How hard has that been to be away from the company you founded? At 22, a lot of 22-year-olds wouldn't have the wherewithal to sell their car and buy equipment to do what you did. That was your baby. How difficult has that been?
It's been difficult in the sense that I don't like what they're doing to the employees. I don't like what they're doing with the franchisees. A lot of folks that made Papa John's great are struggling. That wears on me. And stepping away is not a problem. I've stepped away 2 or 3 times. And as long as the company's being run appropriately and run healthy, then I have no problem stepping back. But the way it's run now is just, it's not good for the community, it's not good for the employees, it's not good for the shareholders, and it's not good for the franchisees, and that wears on me.
What specifically do you mean when you say the way employees are treated or the company's?
The fundamental values and the fundamental principles of the company, mutual respect, integrity, transparency, quality, measuring, interpersonal relationships, collaborative alliances have all gone by the wayside. It's now a game of stock options, and the executives, they get their bonuses, they get their pay, they get their juicy stock options, but the people that really wake up every day and make Papa John's great, they're getting taken advantage of, and that is immoral, A, and B, it's not sustainable.
Do you still have contact with people from within the company?
Yes, but I have to be careful on that on 2 fronts. One is I don't want to have any inside information, and I don't. The second is people are going to call me and tell me what I want to hear. So you got to be real careful with that. But I can honestly tell you the relationship between the franchisees and corporate are the worst in the history of the company, the worst. The company's being run subpar to the degree it's also the worst I've ever seen it in the 34 years I've been doing this. So the company's being mismanaged, and the franchisees don't get along with corporate. They feel like they've been misled. They don't feel like it's transparent. They don't feel like it's an honest, healthy, collaborative relationship. And sooner or later that'll show up in stock price.
Does that mean, it sounds like you're saying that it's taken a huge hit since your departure. Would you ever consider, or do you want to go back to a leadership position at the company you founded?
Right now, I don't want to go back. I feel so negative and pessimistic about the company that I've sold a lot of stock. And my metaphor is there's no reason to be in the car when the car crashes, even if you love the car. I don't have a lot of confidence in this leadership team. I don't have a lot of confidence in the way they're going about running the business. And I think that Papa John's is going to suffer because of that. I think we've lost our principles and values that made it great.
But this is still your baby. It's got your name on it. You don't want to go back.
To your point, Stefan, it's Stefan, right?
Right.
To your point, Stefan, it's hard to watch this. I mean, every single thing you can possibly do wrong to mismanage this company, they're doing. We build it on quality. We build it on taking care of our people. And we build it on certain fundamental principles and values that we never deviated from. And those have kind of gone by the wayside, and the company is crashing. Now you say, what do you mean by crashing? Store unit economics are deteriorating quickly. And if the store level doesn't make a profit, if the franchisees don't make a profit, and the store level managers don't make a bonus, the thing's a house of cards. I'll give you Boston Market, Quiznos, Blimpies, Sears. If the model does not make money, the rest of it's just smoke and mirrors.
But doesn't that go with the territory? Are people seeing that across the board? Is that something that will eventually start to build again with the economy, or do you think that it's the cost-cutting steps that have been taken?
Well, I have a smart friend that packs my tomato sauce in Modesto, California. He's a farmer. And I said, what's the key to success? And he said, John, it's the food, stupid. I've probably had over 40 pizzas, 40, in the last 30 days. They don't make the pizza the way that I used to make it, the way we used to make it. It just doesn't taste the same.
Yeah, speaking of that, I was going to ask you, when's the last time you had Papa John's pizza? Where did you get it? How often do you get them?
We had it today for this event, some 15, 20 pizzas. Then we had it last night. We had a meeting last night. We had a dozen pizzas. And then over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've had pizzas in D.C. and other various places. But I've had over 40 pizzas in the last 30 days. And it's not the same pizza. It's not the same product. It just doesn't taste as good. And they stopped measuring. And if you don't measure it, they won't do it. And the way they're making the pizza, the way they're putting the pizza together is just not fundamentally sound to what makes a Papa John's pizza a Papa John's pizza. And that's hard.
So the executive team is different. The board is different. If you were approached by the board, would you consider, I know you said that you didn't want to, but would you consider a return?
You have to let this run its course, which being an entrepreneur, patience is hard, but you have to let it run its course. And this company is just not going to be successful if they don't start taking care of their people and get back to the basics of a quality product. And I see it going the other way, not that way.
What do you think about the new CEO? I know you were critical of Steve Ritchie. What about the new CEO who was hired?
Well, Jeff Smith, who is a financial banker, owns, I think, 13% of the company. The one thing he and I agree on is that Steve Ritchie is not a CEO. That's one thing we do agree on. Rob Lynch, he's never been a CEO. He has no pizza experience. He's never been in the pizza category. He doesn't really have a passion for quality. And probably most important, he doesn't have a passion for people. And it's not the pizza business, it's the people business. And I'm just telling you, if that store level manager and the people that are running accounts payable or running the distribution or driving the trucks, if those folks are not making a bonus, if they're not being rewarded for hard work, then the whole thing falls apart. Because see, professional managers think the people that do the heavy lifting are not smart. They think that. But everybody knows what that person's making. Everybody knows last year that Steve Ritchie got $6 million plus $2.8 million to leave and be quiet, and they got zero bonus. They all know that. And sooner or later, who wants to play that game?
Have you talked to Steve Ritchie since he left?
No contact.
Do you think you guys will ever mend fences or talk?
Again, the one thing that Jeff Smith and I agree on, that Steve Ritchie is not a CEO. That's the one thing we do agree on.
What about going forward, and just hypothetical, if you were to walk back in as CEO, what do you think the employees would say? I know you have some people there who miss you. What do you think overall?
Well, if I went in today, you'd get one response. But if the management team was out, and I went back in, they'd be cheering, they'd be doing backflips, they'd be bouncing off the walls. I mean, it's a miserable place over there. I mean, they're losing all their good people, and the key to this business is good people.
Has anybody specifically told you that within the company?
What?
That they're miserable?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. We haven't had one. Let's back up here. I've talked to every high-level executive that's left, or somebody close to me has talked to them. And without exception, there's not one person that says Jeff Smith knows what he's doing. There's not one person that says that Jeff Smith won't run this thing into the ground. Not one. And we're talking a half a dozen executives. I mean, they've lost more executives in the last 12 months than I did in 10 years.
What do you think about the whole Shaq thing, Shaquille O'Neal?
I think Shaq does a lot of good things. I think if Shaq and I met, we'd hit it off immediately. But I think Shaq would be great complimenting the founder. I mean, you got a guy that's 5'10" and a guy that's 7'2". I mean, I think that economy and the dynamics of the two personalities, that would be fun. But, you know, the problem, they're not using Shaquille in a way that promotes the authenticity, the foundation, the history, and the quality position. They're not doing that. I think if you had Shaq in the right role, I think he'd do great.
This all started, some of the controversy started after that conference call that was meant to help you. Looking back now, do you think that you were set up?
Oh, there's no question about it. And the public knows that. This is all a farce. You know, Steve Ritchie, Olivia Kirtley, the board of directors all used the black community and race as a way to steal the company. And they stole the company, and now they've destroyed the company. You know, Olivia Kirtley and Mark Shapiro should be in jail. That's that bad. What they've done is just wrong. And they've hurt a lot of people. And they've hurt people that really count. They've hurt people that wake up every day and make this company great.
You can't build a business into one of the largest pizza chains without learning and growing. What have you learned during all of this?
First off, if life was fair, it'd be boring as hell. You know, life's not fair. You got to take the good, and we've had a lot of good, and sometimes you hit some rough spots. But what this has done, Stefan, is this has solidified every single fundamental belief I have about running the business and about interpersonal relationships. The principles and values that we put in place to build a great organization, it thrived. The principles and values they've taken away have destroyed this company. So all they've done is solidify my fundamental beliefs of doing the right thing and taking care of people, making a good pizza.
What is it that people have wrong about you, or that people don't know about you, or that you want people to know about you?
Well, nothing sells like the truth. And the truth, sooner or later, all comes out. They know what they did. They know it was a setup. They know this thing's an entire farce. They wanted to get rid of me because they were watching that $150 million a year in profit. So they wanted, they wanted the money, which is a motivator, and they thought they could run the business better without me. If I was them, I would have sat down over a cup of coffee and said, "John, you go or we go." But instead, they fabricated the race issue, and they paid in a false narrative. And not only did they let it go, they embellished it. And when your own company is embellishing a false narrative, it takes a little time to get over that. But what's been amazing through all this is the public knows exactly that this was not cool. They don't know exactly what went on. They just know something really wrong happened here. And sooner or later, I'll get to the bottom of it, and we'll see what happens.
So you think there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of things people are getting wrong based on that conference call or some of the controversy?
Well, the conference call was taped. It was secretly taped. That's good for me because I didn't say anything that was racist. I mean, sooner or later the tape's going to come out in public and people are going to go, wow, that's what he said. And so that's what he said. And they're going, they made this out of that. They made this all up. They fabricated it. And shame on them.
Do you think people who were critical have the wrong idea about you? The people on the outside, not people inside the company, the people who you say set you up, but people on the outside who've heard about the controversy, do you think they have the wrong idea?
Well, I get out in the public a lot, and I interact with a lot of folks. I've never had this come up with me. I've never had somebody come up and say that, hey, you know, we heard this or you did this or anything. Everything that I've ever seen out of anybody that I interact with is always positive. So, again, I don't think the public buys this nonsense. I think the board hung on to it, embellished it, and created a false narrative in order to throw me out of my own company.
There's another board you were a part of, the University of Louisville,
Yes.
very active and very visible. There have been a lot of changes there as well. Do you go to U of L games? Do you watch? And would you consider getting back involved there?
Well, I love it when things are tough, whether it's a broom closet or a mixed lounge or this situation. I thrive on bad situations. I don't know why that is. And I'm learning to enjoy the good situations. Used to, when things are really good, I get nervous, you know. Now, because when things are really bad, that's when I'm most comfortable. But at U of L, we had a job to do, and we had to clean some things up and straighten out the books and do a lot of things that weren't particularly fun to do. And David Grissom chaired it, did a great job, had a great board, and we got it done. And I was ready to go off the U of L board anyway because we had the thing in good shape. I mean, we had a new athletic director. You know, we had a new chair of the foundation. Grissom had the board, you know, he had the bull by the horns there. So we had U of L in good shape a year and a half ago when I left. So I was ready to go off U of L, and no, I would not go back.
Well, you mentioned the broom closet, so that's where it all started, selling pizzas out of the broom closet.
2 miles up the road.
Right, but you were 22 years old and just starting out. I mean, this is a little different because you're multimillionaire, and then to go through that and everyone knows who you are. And so I understand you like challenges, but it has to hurt a little bit. I mean, you put a lot of money into the stadium and, you know, just over the years, your support.
Well, you get your greatest lessons from your enemies. What's Taylor Swift say? You know, all my enemies used to be friends. So, and Einstein said the level of sophistication to solve today's problems are much more sophisticated than to solve yesterday's problems. As you get higher and higher and more success, the margin of error, of slip-ups gets tighter and tighter. I knew something like this could happen. I was prepared for something like this to happen. I just didn't know it would happen from people on the inside doing this. I thought it would come from the outside. I thought somebody was going to raid the company or do something like this or take it out of Louisville. I never dreamed the people that I care about, that I love, that I made multimillionaires would do what they did. And they did it, and I'll deal with it.
Regarding U of L, you would not go back to serve on the board under any circumstances? There's a new governor in Frankfurt now.
Only if they really needed me, but the only reason you call me is if you're in a mess. Let me say that again. I would only go back to U of L if they really needed me, and the only way to really need me is if they get themselves back in a mess. And right now I don't see it being in a mess. I think Neely's got her arms around it. I think Vince has got his arms around it. So the foundation's in good shape. So there's no reason for me to go back right now.
Do you still support U of L? Have you been to any games?
Yes. Haven't been to a football game yet. That hurts. I didn't like losing that name off the stadium. If I could have one thing back, I'd put the name back on that stadium. That was kind of, you know, we donated millions of dollars and helped build that program. That's the one thing that I miss out of all of it. That and been to schools. I miss teaching and being part of the entrepreneur and the marketing classes at U of L and Ball State, UK, and Purdue. I do miss that.
Why take the money back? Why not just say, you know, walk away from it and maybe get back together down the road?
What's that?
This with the money U of L, the $9 million.
Yeah, all four institutions refunded all the money. So we'll just take money out of folks that didn't want it and give it to folks that do want it.
And so that's what you're repurposing it?
Oh yes, I mean, I'm a young guy, hopefully. But yeah, you know, we'll continue to give back, do things like we did today. You know, $500,000 to Jeff High to build a ball field. Fun stuff, especially when you graduate from Jeff High and you play baseball here.
If you go back to the football games, do you plan to go to any football games? Do you want to?
That day will come. That day will come. When it finally gets out what they did and what was said, I think my phone's going to ring off the hook going, wow, we made a huge mistake here.
So there's a day at Papa John's and at U of L?
There's the day of reckoning. Sooner, hopefully, than later.
Do you think these are two individual groups, like at Papa John's and then at U of L?
What, I don't understand the
Well,
question.
you said what they did. You had mentioned, you said what they did at
Papa John's. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
What, you know,
What is your stake in the company right now? Is it from, I read it had been 30% and then I thought it was 19, but then I saw something where it's like maybe 10.5.
yes. I think I'm the second largest shareholder at 10%.
And so you've converted that to cash. Is there any specific reason, or is it just because of what you said about the company?
There's no reason to be in the car when the car crashes, even if you love the car. There is no way, with the quality product they're serving and the culture they're promoting, or not promoting, the relationship with the franchisees and the deteriorating of unit economics, and you can trade it at 50 multiple. It's impossible to sustain it.
Is there anything else you want people to know, the public, the people who are buying pizzas or who used to buy pizzas, or people who maybe haven't forgiven you for whatever reason?
I would just say, stay tuned. The day of reckoning will come. The record will be straight, and everything will be cool again.
Why not set the record straight now? I mean, what is it about the record that's not straight?
Stay tuned.
How soon will that happen?
Stay tuned. Sooner than later.